Okay, I'm delighted to be here today for our December brunch. And the topic today is bringing the world closer together, which is a passion of mine, and to tell you a bit about how I go about trying to do that. Okay. So, and that's one reason I made a play on my name, Pages, around the world, because my name is spelled P-A-G-E, unlike most of them. So it just seemed like a perfect thing to do, and again, these are around the world. So I try to incorporate images from where I've been around the world. So today I'd like to talk about the process of how I create my calendar, both the images and the quotes, and then the concept for the recent calendar themes, which I hope to continue, and which gets to the third point of begin selecting next year's theme. I'm asking for input on what theme word you would like to have for next year. I'll tell you more about that. So bringing the world closer together, kind of how did I get into this? So what kind of brought me to this theme of bringing the world closer together started when I started working for FAMER, the Foundation for Advancement of International Medical Education and Research, which is a nonprofit foundation located in Philadelphia. And I had the opportunity to develop a leadership program for them starting in 1999, and the program launched in 2001. And now, 20-some years later, we have about 2,000 fellows, which are faculty from health profession schools. That's medicine, dentistry, nursing, public health, physical therapy, etc., from over 40 countries around the world. You can see the countries here located in. So we now have over, as I said, over around 2,000. These are faculty members from health profession schools. And we also have currently 9 active regional institutes. 2 in China. That's one in Chile. Number one is in Chile. That's our most recent one. They have graduated 1 class. 2 and 3 are in China, at China Medical, which is in the northern part of China, and Southern Medical University, which is the southern part below the Yangtze River. We have 1 in Cairo, Egypt. That's number 4. And which is our second youngest. They've graduated 3 classes. And we have 4 in India, our 5, 6, 7, and 8. They were our first institutes. And we have most of our fellows do still come from India. And we have another new one is in Indonesia down here, and I hope to see people from that one later next year. And so you can see most of the countries are from the Southern Hemisphere, where we focused our attention on areas that have needed to look at how they teach. Our hypothesis is that if you teach faculty how to teach better, how to test students better, how to have curriculum that is more appropriate for their areas and not just replicate the European or American curricula, that we will have better health profession providers to come out of these schools. So that's our goal. So initially we did a lot of work on how to move into interactive teaching, because in 2001 most of these schools were still involved in large lecture halls and in oral exams, which are known to be notoriously variable. So that's part of our goal, and I'm happy to say that we are now much more interactive around the world. So that's and if anyone wants to ask questions about FAMER later, I'll be glad to help you. I have the good fortune to still be working for Famer in a part-time consultant capacity, and I'm particularly focused now on how do we bring this whole community of 2,000 fellows together. So now let's get to the art part. So the process of my images, and it's really both spiritual and creative. I look for small details that may interest me, so I kind of view my photography sometimes as a walking a photographic meditation. And this is a monarch butterfly that on clover that I happened to catch. Oh, somehow we have to keep.
Yeah.
We have to go another one too.
Yeah.
Okay. That I happened to catch in. I'll turn this around more so you can see this one as well. In the field, right behind Carewood Village, and then at the same time, I also like large vistas. So at the other end, I like large vistas, and this is one that greeted me every morning when we were in Falmouth, England, which is a bay in Cornwall, England, and this was a sunrise that we had for like 5 days straight. It was just absolutely amazing. And so then the next thing I do is I like to combine images with quotes. And this butterfly to me just went perfectly with this one, this quote by Lewis, "Surprised by Joy." You know, when the butterfly just happened to be on a clover, and I happened to be there and able to get it in focus, which is not easy with butterflies. And then this one from England is the December one that's on this year's calendar. I think you've got it in front of you down on the table there. The CD calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the image for this month. And again, I thought that it just went lovely, I thought, with this quote by Amy Cohen about gratitude, the spark, the spark that lights the fire of joy in your soul. No, this is last year's calendar.
Oh, okay.
The one that's finishing this year.
Have it at home.
So, as I said, the process is both creative, meditative, and then finding quotes. I keep adding quotes. I have a document that's now 60 pages long that I just keep on my desktop and add to, and so each year I just look through and see what quotes might go with the theme. So now let's look at more of how I put the images and quotes together. This is in the upcoming calendar. This is from a photograph of a lighthouse in South Africa along the South Atlantic coast. And I really like pairing it with this quote also from Africa: "If you cannot be a lighthouse, be a candle of light." So in my quotes, I try to get quotes that are not, that are a variety of both male and female writers that come from different writers around the world, and so this is from North Africa. Then another one from this upcoming year's calendar is from the Galapagos. And this was a little kind of islet or rocklet in Sunset that we saw. And this quote was given to me by a friend in Pakistan. "Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth, neither of the east nor of the west," from the Quran. And I thought that was appropriate for these islands, which are just, off in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Okay.
Well, next.
So And then the third one I just wanted to talk about was this one. I took the image recently on the trip to islands. This was, I think, off of Ireland, one of these skelligs. And again, I thought it went very nicely with this quote by Thich Nhat Hanh: "Darkness cannot be dissipated by more darkness. Only light can dissipate darkness." And if you'll notice, I tried to position the word light over the bit of light in those clouds. So, sometimes it doesn't always work to do things like that, but I try to. And not every image works with a quote. Sometimes they're just too busy and you can't really put a quote in them. And then again, when I have a theme in mind, like this year for 2023 was light, and I created 20 images. When I went on this trip, I was focusing, part of my attention was, noticing where light was that could be a potential image. So that's how that came. So those are just 3 of the examples from this upcoming calendar. And as far as quotes go, I also try to include at least one from Swedenborg or someone influenced by Swedenborg. In the Joy series, I had this one. This is from when I was in China 10 years or so ago, and saw these kids just having fun over this statue in sculpture in China. I thought this went with the Swedenborg's passage, "To feel the joy of another as joy in oneself, that is loving." And then this quote from Helen Keller: "Keep your face to the sunshine and you cannot see the shadow. It's what the sunflowers do," by Helen Keller. That's in the current calendar. And it really just touched me to think of Helen Keller never seeing the flower, but knowing when she was with sunflowers, she probably could feel the warmth on the petals to know that they were turned to the sun. So the point is that I really spend a lot of time thinking about what quote might go with what image, and to make sure that they're varied as far as women and men and around the world. And I also have fun with how I position the quotes. Like, I thought this one just coming around the flower was a nice way to do that. So it's all kind of part of the process. So then the covers. For the last 2 years, I have had a theme word, and I have then asked various people to help me translate that word into their languages. And I try to get the script, if there is a script, because I think these scripts are just so beautiful. Just so, like if you look at the one from Hindi, that is just a beautiful script in itself, just artistic. If you don't even know that word means lose, means light. And this is what I hope to continue for this upcoming series next year, is to have you all help me pick a word that I will then make as my theme for the year, to look for images that fit with that word, and then quotes that can go with that. And I do need to thank everyone. I am very fortunate in that I have all of these experts around the world to help me with the languages, to make sure that I'm have the correct language. So I feel very fortunate that I can do that. And then this has led me into making multi-language cards. And so this is just 4 examples of some that I have. The one at the top left is flower. I call them flower candles. I think the stamens and pollen just look to me so much like candles that I just find it fascinating. And again, I have all the happy birthday in all those many languages. On the right is a statue that sculpture I saw in Tresco Gardens, which are in the Isles of Scilly off of Cornwall, England, and thought it really went nicely with the word with congratulations in all those many languages. Going on clockwise, the bottom right is also that same trip. This is a famous sculpture. It's called the Sleeping Mud Lady.
Oh, yeah.
In the Lost Gardens of Helligan.
You can kind of see like it's her head and her shoulder and her
all covered with ivy.
There,
yeah. With ivy. And I thought this was went perfectly for Sorry You're Ill and Rest and Heal. So I got my fellows around the world to translate Sorry You're Ill. Okay.
Did you actually see this in person?
Yes.
How fun.
I took all of these, yeah. And then on the left is one of the holiday cards I made this year. This was a tree that was made of flowers, and again, happy holidays. I try not to do Merry Christmas or Hanukkah because there's so many different religions, and just to go with happy holidays. So I have a complete line of cards now. And then, so kind of, what's the next one?
Yeah, you can just say next slide and
Okay.
I will.
So, kind of how did I do things this year? I was kind of experimenting this year because this is the first, I started the Joy series in 2020 during the epidemic. A friend of mine, artist friend of mine, challenged me to do 52 weeks on a topic, and I did 52 weeks of joy. So I put out 52 images that year.
Wow.
Every week. And it was a great distraction during the pandemic, and to focus on each one I had 52 quotes about joy. So it was a good distraction during that time. And so I selected 12 of them and put them in the calendar for this year, which is in front of you, the desk calendar. This year I was a little more intentional, so I decided to continue that theme and chose the word light because I think we do need more light in our world right now, and light in a variety of ways, both light for warmth and friendship and also light for wisdom. The two ways that Swedenborg talks about light. And so I had a contest. I had a fair number of quotes about light, but I wanted more. So I had a contest and asked, in one of my monthly blogs, asked people to contribute quotes about light, and if I used them, I would send them a package of cards. And I did have 4 winners. The one on the left, there is a crack. A crack is everything. That's how light gets in. And from a song, forget who the artist is, I can't, Leonard Cohen. And there's a song that goes with it. And so a friend gave me that, and so got a package of cards. The one on the right, this is a eggplant blossom that I took in rural Uganda on a trip. And again, a friend Vanessa Birch, who's from South Africa, had this quote: "The sun torched the bloom in a moment of uncontained joy." And you can see kind of the light coming through the petals there. And as an aside, I'm hoping to see Vanessa in January when I'm on a trip to South Africa. Then the one with the fish was another from another minister friend of mine. The ascent to light begins within each of us. It is our ability to trust what we cannot see. And then, so as I said, some of these were, so those 3 people and a couple of others, including my friend from Pakistan who gave me the quote from Allah, got packages of cards. And the second one I had a survey for the top images. After I'd produced about 18 images, this was in the late summer, I produced 22 images for this. I didn't do 52. So I just, want to have more than enough for my calendar, and so I'm planning on doing about 20 images for this coming year. So at any rate, I had a survey to say which of these images do you like the best and would you like to have in the calendar. And the top 4 there were the major winners, and then these 6 were among the top, and so that's one reason they're included in the calendar for this year. And I hope to continue that process next year. And so this gets us to next year. And so the next one. Yeah. So what is the topic for next year? And here you have a little activity to do.
Okay, so pass these around.
If you can circle up to 3 of the words that you would like to have. I've already put out my December blog asking for this, and so far from the answers, I have only 2 words that have 2 votes. So it's kind of being all over. So I'm hoping to get a little more clarity from you all here.
So you start with the word and
Yes.
and do the pictures and instead of the other way around.
Pictures. I start with the word, and then pictures. I do 2 things. One, I have a catalog, Lightroom catalog of images from 20 years. So I go through that and see what might go with that word, and put them in a folder. And then as I go through the year, I also consciously think about that word as I'm seeing things that I'm photographing. So it's it's a both and.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I do feel very fortunate that during the pandemic could not travel at all, but I did have this catalog, 20 years or almost 20 years of photographs that I can go through and revisit. I went down to Brazil 12 times, so I've got lots of pictures from Brazil, for instance, and twice to South Africa, so and twice to India. So I have images that I can go back to, even though I've not been to India since for 15 years.
Sure. Do you guys need a pen?
Does your business help you defray the cost of these adventures?
I'm sorry, what?
Does your picture business?
No, oh yeah, thank you. That's a very good point. This business I started is to support Famer.
Oh, okay.
So the profits that I make from this business go to Famer.
It's totally a charitable.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. That was a very important point that I forgot to mention. Yeah, so it's at my stage of life, I feel it's one of my ways of giving back to the world. So the part of bringing the world closer together, giving back to the world. Yeah. So any questions that anyone has at this point?
Can I borrow a pen? I can't circle anything.
Yeah, Roseanne fortunately has one. I thought I had one, but I didn't.
Wait a minute. There we go. Thank you.
So any questions about how I do this and how I spend my time? And
So you said you started making calendars for family members maybe 25 years ago?
Yeah.
And then 15 years ago you started making them
I started for Famer. I started making these. We started the Institute in 2001, and I started making a calendar for them certainly by 2008. It was a way of, again, thanking our directors of regional institutes who were mostly volunteering their time. It's kind of a way to thank them and also to show our regional institutes that you're part of a larger endeavor, because they're all very proud. When I was down in Brazil once, in one of my talks, I showed a picture of a famer fellow who was trekking in Nepal. You know, this beautiful picture of the treks one does. And the Brazilian said, "We've got mountains here." And I said, "Yes, you certainly do, but I want you to know that you're part of a global community of practice, you know, not just Brazil."
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of why I started it. So I gave it as gifts for many years.
Mm-hmm. When did you start getting interested in taking pictures, photography?
That started early because my father started out as a sports photographer.
Ah.
And then he went into newspaper business and became a newspaper executive and editor, all of that. But so we had the obligatory, you can't come downstairs until Daddy has the video set up so he captures you coming downstairs. And he put together a Christmas card of us, very creative Christmas card, every year until we were like 16. So I still have those. So I saw him, doing that, and he gave me his old Rolleiflex camera, which I loved, and I took beautiful macros, which it's one of my goals is to go through and now digitize some of those negatives.
Yeah, so then you could go back in time as well as around the world.
Right. So that was, and then my next major activity was I went to a women's college, Agnes Scott College, and I was editor of the yearbook. And I say that because if I had been at a co-ed college, I know I wouldn't have been an editor of the yearbook. And so I took a lot of the pictures for that yearbook, and this is when you developed in a in a dark room.
Yeah.
And so I learned hands-on photography there. Yeah. So it's been with me as an avocation all along, but not intentionally until a few years ago.
Do you like to use your pictures like as unedited as possible, or do you ever use photo editing software?
Oh yeah, I use Lightroom, primarily Lightroom. I can use Lightroom for everything except putting the quotes on.
Okay.
For that, now I go to PowerPoint.
Oh,
It's
why not?
just make sure that PowerPoint has 300 dpi, and because I'm so comfortable with PowerPoint. I used to go to Photoshop, and I still do some in Photoshop. So yes, generally for the scenes, I do relatively little editing. Lightroom now has a new masking feature that uses artificial intelligence, where you can pick the sky,
Oh.
and you can then
Wow.
do the sky separately from it makes it very easy. So I'm using that more. I just learned this process this year, so I'm just using that more now. For flowers, what I have learned, flowers are always I love to take pictures of flowers, as anyone in Cameron Village knows. The problem with flowers is that they come with background.
Yes.
That can be distracting. Again, Lightroom now, with our artificial intelligence, you can pick the image.
Oh.
And it does a very good job of picking the flower. And then you can make the background, you can blur out the background, you can make it dark. I usually make it dark to be dramatic. And so I'm doing that more with my flowers.
Do you know is that a subscription program where you pay yearly?
Yeah. You have to, with Lightroom, it's an Adobe product, you have to pay the $10 a month. There's no way out of it now. Yeah. Yeah. I bit the bullet a couple years ago and did it. Yeah. I had bought the individual programs before that, but
Yeah.
can't do it anymore. So, not much. Yes.
Can I ask about Famer? You said it was Philadelphia based. Is that something that you started, or you
No.
worked for them, or you
I work
volunteered?
for them. The parent organization of Famer is called ECFMG, the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates. So any person who graduates from medical school that is not in the U.S. has to pass a certification exam, their certification exam, in order to practice in the United States, to become a resident in the United States.
Oh,
And so that's, the foundation started in 1999, about the time I joined. The president of the president of ECFFG at that time was a woman named Nancy Gary, who's now passed. She was the first woman to be dean of 2 different medical schools. And she was also a graduate of Women's Med before it was Medical College of Pennsylvania. And she was on our ELAM advisory board, the women's program I started in 1995. And Nancy liked what we were doing and thought that it could be very powerful to bring to ECFMG. So she started this foundation, asked me to come over, and I co-founded the Leadership Institute with another individual, Bill Burdick. So, and I've been fortunate to be able to work with them for the next 20, so it's getting close to 23 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So they have a big function. They certify both the competence and the that the person is who they are and they graduate from where they are. So there's a big kind of legal vetting process as well. Did either of you have questions?
Well, actually, I do. You grew up in an era like I did, where McLuhan really had a lot to say about media and the medium of the message. Does that affect you at all when you lay out your work?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
And I'm learning even more about that as I'm now into e-marketing.
Yeah, it would.
That, how you, so that, bolding things, italicizing things, making them different colors, placement, all that's very important. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm certainly getting very involved in that.
It's something that I think we really lack today.
Mm-hmm.
People throw devices at us, programs at us, but not necessarily what they are, what they can really do. You're sort of on your own there, and that's fine. In your hands, it would be good. But I think a lot of times, in Elon Musk's hands, it's not good.
No.
It's like tools are that way, right? Generally, we just have more powerful ones now
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah. It's amazing to think what's happened in our lifetime.
Yeah.
True.
When we started our ELAM program in 1995, the first year we wanted to get people on a listserv. And these people who are in U.S. medical schools. We had, I think, 20 fellows, and 2 of them could not get on because their schools did not have the capability of email listserv. And just think where we've gone from 1995 to now.
Yeah. Coming up on 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah. But where everyone, now has a smartphone, there, in 1995 there wasn't anything like that. So it is a change. And if anyone is interested in calendars, or I have these that are available.
What are you selling them for?
The small ones are 12 and these are 20.
Okay.
So I thank you all for giving me the opportunity to talk about how I create my art.
Wonderful.
Wow. 5 minutes ahead of schedule.
Okay.
Even with all our setting up.
Mm-hmm.
These are wonderful, Paige. Thank you for coming to show them with us.
I think it's fun to talk about the process, you know, to think about how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's great that you have a creative outlet that you use to support good works,
Yes,
philanthropy.
yes.
I think in my stage in life, I think that's, I don't need to make money.
Yeah, that's great.
So lucky.
Yeah, it's a privilege not to have to make money
Mhm.
and using it well.
And this coming year, I will add 4, hopefully, fingers crossed, 4 new countries to my pages around the world. 'Cause
How many countries do you have now?
I've got it, at least 30, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
I don't have pictures from all of them because some of them I took before,
Mhm.
like Australia and New Zealand I went to before I had a digital camera.
Mhm.
And so this means going back to those negatives, which I digitized, which I've not yet done.
Right.
Yeah. I hope to add Mozambique and Botswana and Zimbabwe in Africa and Indonesia in Asia next year.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
and I will add these to my list and see whether anything is
wins.
beginning to come out.
Yeah.